Mr. President, we'd like to thank the Deputy Special Representative of the Secretary General, Vivian van der Peer, for her briefing. We welcome to the meeting the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Teresa Vanga, and the representative of the other countries who've requested the floor under Rule 37. Distinguished colleagues, 2 days ago we met in this chamber and discussed the worrisome developments in the situation in the eastern DRC. Over the past 48 hours, significantly deteriorated, especially with the seizure of Goma, where there are more than 1 million civilians located. Russia firmly condemns the actions of M23. We call for a swift cessation of hostilities and a withdrawal of the rebels of the illegal armed formation from the towns, villages and territory they've seized. We also urge external forces to cease their support for M23 and to recall their military units. There's a need without delay to resume the negotiation process in Rawanda. We must not allow a spillover of the escalation which could threaten the lives of people on both sides of the border and is likely to turn into an interstate conflict on a regional scale. We are seriously concerned by the humanitarian repercussions of what's going on. In front of our very eyes, the already difficult situation in North Kivu is turning into an utter humanitarian disaster. Goma, de facto, is cut off from the outside world. This may have serious consequences for the inhabitants of the town and the IDPs who have fled there. Once again, we would like to express our condolences to the families of the civilian victims of the DRC, the UN peacekeepers, and the fallen SADC soldiers. We stand in solidarity with the governments of the DRC and those states who've lost their service personnel. We wish there was speedy recovery. We'd like to underscore that Russia unequivocally condemns the attacks on peacekeepers. It's absolutely unacceptable. We firmly support the UN peacekeeping mission in the stabilization mission in the DRC, its leadership and the Blue Helmets. We also condemn any attacks and acts of aggression regarding international diplomatic representation. Such actions have absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with peaceful demonstrations. We urge Kinshasa to ensure the protection of foreign missions and diplomatic staff, pursuant to the Vienna Convention and its international obligations. The violence in eastern DRC needs to stop. However, there's no military path to resolve this crisis. It is absolutely clear that this is only possible as a result of political agreements. We're convinced that the Luanda process remains the best forum where agreements can be reached. We carefully listened to the representative of Angola during the meeting of the Council on Sunday. Angola clearly stated that the only obstacle to preventing a signature of a reconciliation document between Kinshasa and Kigali was the issue of cessation of government interaction with the illegal armed formations and primarily with the M23. Without settling the status of this group as part of the intra-Congolese dialogue, any attempts to improve the situation between the DRC and Rwanda will not bear lasting fruit. Here, there is an urgent need for the resumption of the Nairobi process and the pushing forward of similar regional initiatives. There's no alternative to this. Mr. President, attempts to settle the crisis will also not bear fruit if the countries of the Great Lakes region do not take decisive measures to combat the illegal exploitation and smuggling of natural resources, the lion's share of which, as we all know, come from the eastern DRC, which is beset by instability. There's a need for extra-regional players and large transnational corporations to review their relationship with the use of these resources because in their interest there's this ongoing illegal supply of blood minerals. These states have all instruments available to them to stop the hot phase, so to speak, of the conflict and to exert pressure on the parties so they return to negotiations. They must be harnessed to protect people's lives and to stop the suffering of hundreds of thousands of civilians. Unfortunately, we've all seen that the statement of the Council has not stopped the M23 and those who support this group from seizing Goma and continuing their hostilities. Russia, from its side, will do everything possible, including through here in the Council, to stop the escalation and to restore prospects for diplomatic settlement in the interest of stabilizing the situation in the eastern DRC. Thank you very much indeed.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, President. Thank you, DSRSG, Vivian van de Peer, for your briefing on the unacceptable events of the last 48 hours. The United States condemns the seizure of Goma and urges this Council to consider measures to halt the territorial advances by Rwandan troops and M23. We stand in firm support of the Congolese people and of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the DRC, and urge Rwanda to respect the same. At the same time, we are watching with concern and deplore the destruction of diplomatic facilities in Kinshasa and call on the DRC government to respect its obligations to protect diplomatic premises and personnel. We call for an immediate ceasefire and end to this fighting. Rwanda must withdraw troops from the DRC. Rwanda and the DRC must return to the negotiating table and work toward a sustainable, peaceful solution. We remain deeply concerned about the human rights abuses, displacement, and other impacts on Congolese civilians suffering the brunt of this fighting. Civilians, including the growing number of IDPs and refugees in Sake, Goma, and beyond, must be protected. More than ever, humanitarian actors must be allowed to operate freely and deliver life-saving aid. The rights of all Goma's inhabitants, including former combatants, must be respected. We are similarly concerned that M23's and Rwanda's ongoing advances are opening up a bloody new front to this conflict in South Kivu, which no longer benefits from the roles MONUSCO assumed in the past to protect civilians and facilitate humanitarian assistance. We must not allow this violence to spiral into a wider regional conflict, which would incur a horrific human toll. We mourn all the Congolese who have lost their lives in this fighting. We also extend heartfelt condolences to the countries and families of UN peacekeepers and SAMI DRC troops lost during these attacks. We applaud MONUSCO for its commitment to protect civilians and the bravery and professionalism demonstrated by peacekeepers in recent weeks. As we have said before, Rwanda's support to M23 remains wholly at odds with its robust support to UN peacekeeping. Rwanda said on Sunday that it means no harm to MONUSCO, but 3 peacekeepers have been killed, with many more injured. Additionally, UN and humanitarian personnel, as well as civilians, are endangered by Rwanda's ongoing use of GPS interference and deployment of advanced weapons and systems. Hope is not lost. There is an end in sight to this fighting and a path for a regional dialogue, but the international community must act now. Those unwilling to return to the negotiating table must face a clear and unambiguous response from the Council. We must abandon the delusion of short-term military solutions and work instead toward a durable peace powered by regional economic arrangements for the Great Lakes' vast mineral wealth to ensure stability and prosperity for local populations. Addressing historical grievances, ending ethnic attacks, and other roots of this conflict must be done through a process that has clear incentives and unmistakable accountability. The international community has the tools in hand to end the fighting and build sustainable solutions to the Eastern DRC conflict. We must collectively marshal the will to leverage such tools, as the United States is fully prepared to do, or be prepared to accept unthinkable cost, measured in human lives. Indeed, as the United States observed at our briefing on Sunday, we will consider all the tools at our disposal in order to hold accountable those responsible for sustaining armed conflict, instability, and insecurity in the DRC. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for the statement